Off you go.
Like the good old days, isn't it? Yeah. But it's the same old spiel, the same old talk about. How could it be anything other, if that is all there is? So, how can we teach you anything? And how can anybody tell you anything? Can't. All that needs to happen is to recognise that you are already that. When it's recognised what we're talking about, we're talking about what they call in all the traditions non-duality, or one without a second. They call that one God. And all the scriptures will tell you that there's no God but God, say the Muslims. Allah is his name. Put another label on it. The Hebrews say, Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one God. It says in Isaiah, Be still and know that I am God. Hindus say it's omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience. Nama Rupa. Omnipresence is right now. Anybody who's not present right now, omnipotence is there's only one power, total presence, and omniscience is total intelligence. So all these different ways, they're pointing to it. Now how could we get lost? Purely and simply because we've learnt words. And the word is what divides or separates me and other. Duality. So they say there's absolutely no duality in non-duality. So these words we learn are not the actual, are not the real. It's all that one without a second, not two. And they tell you that too in the so-called great mantra, I am that. Everything is that. That is all there is. And don't we innately know that already? Because we say, that's the chair I'm sitting in. That's the carpet on the floor. That's the room I'm in. Outside, that's the space. And all the things that are in space are all that. So what's discriminating it all? Isn't it the word, the label we've put on it? And how many words were you born with? You realise you can't remember your birth, so you didn't have any words to remember your birth with. And you also realise that you picked up words along the way. When your parents put the name on you, said your little Johnny or your little Billy or your little Jane or whatever label they put on. And we learnt other words like me or I or this, that and the other. And so we related to this I, which believed to be me or this person, as I am little Jane or little Billy or whatever your name is. So we've set the separation up with the word. And the word's not the thing. Take the word water. Drink the word. You can't. The word fire. Cook with it. Heat yourself with it. You can't. So what's this basic word, I or me? That implies what we've taken to be a person, which is another word or label we put on ourselves. Persons, separate entities, individuals. All this isness, which is the one essence, patterning, shaping, forming and appearing, expressing as everything, the division comes about through the words. So there are many, many different words and many different languages or dialects or things like this, which have been taught the particular language or word. And we can learn other words and other labels. But none of it is what you really are. You really are that omnipresence, total presence, omnipotence, total power, and total intelligence. You are that, in other words. That, put it the other way, that is what I am. Not this persona, not this body, not this mind, not this word or label. But I am, I've got to use words to describe it, which is not the real. What I am is that life itself. And isn't that a fact? You know that you are. You are not this body, or not this mind. But we say, my body, we're related to the me. Where did the me come about? It with the learnt words like I or me. That's labels we put upon ourselves. What's that I am? Doesn't really mean this sense of presence, the knowing that you are, translate as the thought I am. The sense of presence. We learn to translate it as I am. And that I am is what we take ourselves to be. So we're related to the seeming persona, the mask, the conceptual image. I am the words we've learnt about it. I am Bob, the Australian, the good fellow, or not so good. Instead of realising, as we pointed out a little while ago, it's only the one essence, the one intelligence entity. Instead of I am the absolute, I am the great perfection. Now I've divided myself into this seeming separate entity, this individual, which is not divided at all. It's all the one essence, which the seeming division comes about through the learning of these words. So when they say, what you are seeking, you already are. Because that's what we do when the search starts. People have heard this and added what they believe, this and that onto it, which separated. Now take ourselves to be this separate entity, but we're not. And that we call a person, persona. Persona comes from the Latin language, meaning a mask. So now we think that I am this persona. I am this mask. But the mask is the image, the conceptual image. But are you a mask? You know you're not. I'm breathing, my heart's beating, hair and fingernails growing, food's being digested. Could a mask do any of those things? So there must be this sentience or life expressing through this pattern. And having learned the words, they can only express in words, thoughts, ideas or images. And so that I or me seems to be separate, because we say that's not I, something that we don't feel is what we are. That's not I, that's not me. So I am separate from me. And as soon as we say that, we've moved away from what the scriptures tell us. Everything is that. Everything. And some of the people that have looked into these traditions and formed their different concepts about them and started, and religions have formed around most of them, not the so-called seeming people that didn't start any religions. The religions have formed around them by the way other people translate it. And say, well, this fellow's a saint, he's a sage or a saviour or he's God or he's Lord or whatever. Put the label on him and left the me or the her or the what as a separate entity. Instead of seeing, if I am that and I know I am, and they say everything is that, what would you be? You're going to believe you're the separate entity, the person, or you're going to realise that if I am that, I must be that godliness, that sense of presence, the totality, the absolute. And what's the point of seeking something that I already am? That's what they say the search is the problem. They also say you'll never find the answer in the mind. And when you investigate those things, you'll see it's so. If you believe you are this body, mind, show me. Show me what is this body made up of? You're made up of, it's made up of elements. Made up of air, earth, fire, water, space. That's what we divided it into the elements. It's the one essence that's been divided when it's looked into. So, if this body made up of elements, how can you call it really my body? Who do we think it belongs to? We're saying my body, my mind. So this seeming body, which the life essence is expressing through, utilising it, making it do things, we've taken it to be me or I, a separate entity. My mind. Show me your mind. And who would have the mind if it's my mind? My mind, what's that? Isn't it a thought? Can a thought be the thought or have a thought? It can't. So if mine's only a thought, show me the thought. What's the thought? A concept, a mental construct, an image, a vibration, a sound, a word. Well, if I believe I'm my mind and mind's a sound, which particular sound would it be? Or which particular word? Well, we take ourselves to be the I am thought or word, which when you break that down, you'll see it's a sense of presence. The awareness of presence which is in you right now, to translate, what can you say about it? You can only say, I am. But are you a sound? What's a sound? It's a vibration. What's a vibration? A movement of energy, which vibrating into these sound patterns, which are words, thoughts, ideas, images. We're taking ourselves, when you're looking at it from that light, you see we're taking ourselves to be a mental image, a concept. And you think that mental concepts, if it takes on more concepts with the practices and things we do, will become the reality. But again, it's pointing out there is only one reality, one essence that's patterning, shaping, forming, experiencing, and expressing as everything. So you must be that. One essence. Have a look outside at this manifestation. And you'll see all sorts of different patterns, shapes and forms. And we believe we are living in a world. What's the world? Made up of continents, islands, different patterns, shapes and forms, space, sky, we call the world. And we've divided it up into all these concepts, continents, isles and everything. Divided up the indivisible. Now we've got the earth, and we've got the sun, they're elements. And when you look at it, investigate, you realise that the earth is rolling around the sun. So there's nothing, they're not separate and apart. But we take them to be separated. And what are they both in? Aren't they both in space? Emptiness, which they call the emptiness, space like awareness, the stillness, the silence. That's the basic screen. Like you'll see a light shines through the clouds and it can affect on the background of a semi-solid sky an image. But the sky is not solid at all. It's got no substance, got no static point, got no beginning, no end. Yet images form in it, reflections or images of different patterns in space. And all the thought is a concept or a mental image. Appearing in space. They call it space-like awareness, meaning the awareness is like space. What can you say about space? All you can see is empty. Does it have any circumference to it? Does it have any ending? Can you find a static point, a starting point in space? You can't. So you can't find any static point, no end to it, no circumference to it. You can't say it's not there. But there's nothing you can grasp and say that it is there. So it is and it is not. Like all the images appearing. Take the mirror. We've got mirrors here. We've got a background on the glass. Knowing is how to reflect things, we put the background on the clear glass. And the images appear, or reflections appear, like in a mirror. But are the images in the mirror real? They're seemingly so. But go up to a mirror and try and grab an image out of the mirror. You realise you can't grab an image out of the mirror or a reflection. And you see how that happens in space even. and realise that all this manifestation, the trees, the flowers, and all the things that appear solid and substantial, are all patterns reflecting in that space. The basic screen, which is silence, stillness, emptiness. It's all appearing in that. These bodies, you, me, and everything else, seemingly solid, seemingly substantial. As we broke down the body into nothing but a vibration, and the mind into nothing but a vibration, though they're appearing to be solid, and the words that are coming out of it, the activities that are going on, they all seem solid. But it's only the one essence vibrating, patterning, expressing and appearing as everything. And you are that. It seems real, because what it's all made up, it's suffused with an innate intelligence, a knowing. That's the basic essence that we are, pure intelligence energy. It's a vibrating pattern of energy. That's how it can pattern, shape and form. And it's intelligence, because have a look at this manifestation. You can't say it's willy-nilly, just accidental happening, because it can all be broken down into intelligence. It's intelligence solid, suffusing every part of it. And in the patterns, like these bodily patterns, the intelligence suffusing them, using that pattern as it's formed to express through. So it's intelligence within intelligence within intelligence. Vibration upon vibration. But we break it up and say it's separate. Separated ourselves from the rest of it. And with that sense of separation comes insecurity. And with the sense of insecurity comes vulnerability, because you don't know what this is or that is now for certain. Because we've learnt words about a lot of things, but some of the words we haven't recognised. With that sense of insecurity and vulnerability, that's when our problems start. Something you're insecure about, you're unsure of it. And you feel very vulnerable, especially when you're a little child or when we're first learning these words. You don't know what that is. You haven't been told. So you're fearful and vulnerable in it. Insecure. And that's when our problems start. Because we're not sure about something, we're insecure in it. We haven't had the capacity to reason out what it is, to take it to be this and that. So the capacity of reasoning hasn't developed. And we've separated ourselves. And that's the problem. We keep believing in that sense of separation and believe it needs to become total. That needs to become solid and substantial, because it seems, with all the reflections around, it seems to be broken up, separate. And looking on that and realising that it was never separate in the first place, and everything is that appearing, patterning, expressing, and you're not separate from anything, then what must you be? What must you be if you take the separation out of all the appearances, all the patterns? You must be that basic screen in which everything appears. The space-like awareness. So when they say the search is the problem, they're telling you the truth. Which of you have found it by seeking? You've been searching, most of us have been searching for many years now, looking into this and that. Have you ever found the answer in the concept or in the mind? You know, because when we're focusing into this thing called mind, what can come out of that? Only more concepts. Only more thoughts, ideas and images. Without the word, without the image, right here and now, drop the thoughts, the images. Just let the thought go out with the breath for a moment, or just fixate on it, don't attach to it, just leave it as it is, without any attempt to alter it, modify it or correct. See what you can say about anything then. And you realise the appearance will still be there, still appears to be so. But it is all like reflections or images. There's nothing solid or substantial about it. So when Shakespeare tells you that nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so, and Socrates tells you nothing can trouble you except your own imagination, realise that. What is the mind saying when the thoughts are appearing in what we call this thing called mind? It's always vibrating, and what must it vibrate? It can only vibrate within the boundaries. If you've got no boundaries on it, where's it going to go? So the boundaries we put them on it are the stoppers. And they're the words we've learnt. Good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating, positive, negative. That's the cocoon or cage we've built around ourselves. And we're living in that conceptual cage. And it goes on and on. And we get locked into one part of it, and the other doesn't stay around long. It keeps gently vibrating in the negative more than it does the positive, because the labels or the words on keep relating to the belief that this is what I am. Instead of recognise there is only that, and that is what I am. And I'm not even going to bother to describe that. But being, knowing, and loving to be, that's natural functioning, isn't it? Anyone who's not being right now, anyone who's not knowing, there's a knowing there. What, you're knowing this, you're knowing that, you're knowing something else. The knowing is going right on in this immediately, like the being is. And don't you love to be? None of us want to be dead right now. We want to be. And realise, we're not realising that we are that pure being without the discriminating concepts, words and ideas on it that are separating it and spoiling it for us. With the belief we're a separate entity, an individual, a person. We know this and we know that. I'm smart. I've learned all these words and concepts. Not leaving it as it is, which is the thing they'll tell you in the scriptures. Leave everything as it is. And realise that everything is really no thing. It's just patterning, shaping, forming and vibrating. So if you're leaving it as it is, have you moved away from the natural state? The isness of everything. You haven't really moved away from it, unless you're conceptualising and thinking about it. That's what needs to happen. So, that'll do for a while.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions from online. I'll just narrate them. Hi everyone, and I'll just... first one is Tanya saying good morning to everyone, to Bob and Kat and everyone who is already that. And she says it sounds dualistically, but we know what that means. So, and now we've got a question from Michelle. And the question says, and you can elaborate on that. I have heard it is said that doing happens and the thoughts climb the doing. The thought claims the doing. So I walk to the fridge and the thought says I'm walking to the fridge. So it is says that the me is claiming the action. I have tested this and it doesn't seem to be true. The brain is always giving the message to move, or take action, whether it is a thought or just an impulse or intention. The thing is, the thoughts aren't me anyway. So even if there is a thought that initiates an action, it is still not me who is doing it. Both the thought and the actions are arising in the awareness or consciousness. Could you please clarify, as I am still a bit confused about this? Sorry for a long-winded question. Thank you for the precise question.
Yeah, well, isn't that so? You can walk to the fridge without thinking I'm walking to the fridge.
Yes.
The intention might come up and you start doing it. Just to say, as you can breathe and your heart can beat without saying I'm breathing or I'm beating my heart.
Yes.
And what's your next thought going to be? So it's the translation of the intention doesn't come up till later, really, but it seems to be.
And it has even been measured that the thought, the narrative thought, comes about half a second later after the impulse. And you're not the impulse either, because impulse is the response to the environment. Whether it is an inner environment, like impulse to go to the toilet or to get some water, or outer environment, either way, it is infinite amount of factors that create that response. So you're not the response unless you accept that you are the whole environment, the whole totality. Then the impulse is not excluded. But yes, the thought is narrative. It narrates half a second later. The impulse goes, certain movement, action, whatever, dopamine impulse goes to the brain, then it goes to the muscles, then the chemicals produce, bring more, whatever, blood, oxygenated blood to the legs, and the movement happens. But you neither the impulse, you neither the blood traveling or the dopamine, neither of that, or all of it and nothing excluded.
Yeah, see how that functions. Like I say, hold up your finger. Go on, hold up your finger. Now say I'll move my finger.
Just say it. Move my finger.
You didn't. You didn't. A lot of you didn't bother moving your finger even.
Yeah.
But you might have been saying it and thinking it. See that? Done.
We also have an answer, really nice answer to this, unless you wanted to add on it.
Go on.
Yes, so that's the answer from Amarnath. Doing without doer, thinking without thinker, listening without listener. Only through inquiry, going to beyond the self-center, separate entity happens. Brain and body are just sensations or perceptions. Catch hold of what is prior to perceptions and thoughts. Paper behind the script, screen behind the scenes, non-conceptual awareness. Thinker itself is a thought equals false.
Probably we need the ears now.
Okay.
Can you speak a little bit about time, Bob?
I need time to speak about time.
You've got plenty.
Time's just a mental concept.
Yeah.
Is there a past if you don't think about it? We should have a look at that.
Yeah.
Can you say there's a past without a thought? Or a future without a thought? So they're mental concepts. But you'll say, I was in the past. Well, try and live yesterday. Try and live a moment ago. You can't live a moment ago. It's gone. You can't live yesterday. It's gone. But you'll say, I was in the past. So it's the same. The same with the future. Try and live a moment ahead of try and live in the next hour or the next couple of minutes. You can't. But you can imagine and anticipate what you're going to do in the next hour or so, but you can't actually live in the time. So the imagination and anticipation is taking place right now. try and live in the yesterday. You can't, or last week, or a minute ago, you can't. But you can, again, recall it. And the only reality you're giving that is when you're recalling it or anticipating it. But it's always in this presence. Everything is always in this total presence. It's not particularised, it's not separated. So time is just a concept, an idea. When does it begin? You can't say it began a moment ago, because that's already dead and gone, that's the past. And you can't say it hasn't happened yet. So it's a spontaneous occurrence, beginning right now, spontaneously. When can you grasp the now? You can't. So it's spontaneous. As you're grasping it, saying, well, right now, hasn't it moved on? And has it ended? Well, now it's ending. But isn't it starting again as it's ending? Spontaneously. So it's all spontaneous, timeless, bodiless, mindless, spaceless awareness. Just what is something that's happening right spontaneously right here and right now. Does is have any beginning or any ending? You can put a conceptual image on it, but the actuality is spontaneously happening right now. Heart beating, hair and fingernails going, food being digested, all spontaneously happening. Blinking your eye. So it's all a spontaneous emanation. So what must it be? If it has no beginning and no ending, you can't put a beginning on or an ending. Wouldn't that be eternity? Mm-hmm. Eternal, and that's what they tell us. You are the eternal. Mm-hmm. You're not yesterday or last year or 1,000 years ago. You are beginningless and endless right now. Can you find it? Is there a static point when that breath you just took began? Or is there a static point before it? Or was the breathing out happening spontaneous? Was there an end to that and a beginning to the next breath? It seemed like a little hiatus or a little pause there. Well, that's where the livingness is. In the beginningless, the endless, the eternal. And you are that. A sense of presence. It's a sense, which is not before it's translated into words, a pre-sense.
And what an amazing thing, if there is such a thing, the time is. When you say time is mind,
Yeah.
and you see how the time does not exist apart from thinking. And you see that without the time there is no universe. Without the time there is no memory. There is no interpretation of what's going on. Like, even animals have basic sense of memory, so they can recognize things. So time is just, on one hand, it doesn't exist, it's a mental construct. But without that mental construct, the world, the whole universe, wouldn't exist. Is how the universe is created in the mind by the act of thinking, imagining, interpreting, and inculcating time, the past, the origin. Like every moment carries behind the story of how it came about, how it became the way it is, how the body has grown from childhood or infancy or even before that. Is absolutely miraculous, amazing invention without which the whole diversity of variety of the experience wouldn't be the way it is. It wouldn't be possible. because imagining other time than this moment, the whole imagined world, the whole imagined eternity, in the way that time understands eternity, like infinitely long, wouldn't exist.
And see how many times you were saying imagined.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is all illusion. It is all totally
Images,
imaged in. Yeah.
reflections. Right?
And how, what a wonderful appreciation for the opportunity for love, for appreciation of that display, of that magnificent movie of life. That's
Quite a movie.
quite a movie.
5D.
Absolutely, yeah. I think there is a comment or not? I'll see there, because there is something on the screen.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a question from Tanya, and we of course invite everyone to join in and answer those questions. Bob just put his ears. Question from Tanya: is there space between things? Seems like there is no between, as awareness is the apparent object are not separate, but objects seem separate from each other. Wanting to know is such a habit. Laughing out loud. Who wants to know? No one. Just a question appearing. So the separate entity is just a thought. Not sure what is being looked for. So the question came up. And Michelle says, I have a story. I think the brain is incredible and is an amazing survival machine. I think the me is an inbuilt program of the brain in order to create feeling of importance for the being in order to ensure survival. Otherwise, if the brain and nervous system felt no more important than anything or anybody else, it would seek its own survival. So we have a couple of subjects. We have space, and we have the brain as survival machine. Anyone would like to elaborate on that? Or you, darling, you're going to say?
Well, pinpoint space. Does space have it where can you say it started? When you can, where can you say it ends? You can't give it any starting point. You can't give it any centre or any circumference. It appears to have these things, but it's not. So they call it space-like awareness. It's all on beginningless, endless, timeless, spaceless, bodiless, mindless, patterning, shaping, and forming, appearing as so. And the dream you had last night or last week, whenever it was, when did it begin? Can you pinpoint a time? When did it end? So everything is that eternity, eternal right now. Bodiless, mindless, timeless, spaceless.
And also the aspect of time, of space, which comes up with the bodily sensation. Close your eyes and where is the whole space? Where is the whole universe? You may still have the spatial awareness if there are sounds, but close your ears and the space is gone too. See how the space is also a product of the mind, because all the senses are belonging to the mind. Mind is making sense of the senses.
And talking about brain too.
Yeah.
If the brain didn't have a vehicle to express through, like the body, what could you say? What could you think? What could you do? And that body, if that didn't have the space to appear in, where could you say it existed or what it was? And how did that begin? Go back and trace it to your father and your mother. Trace it back prior to them, if you can.
And is the space even an object, or is it an absence of object? Even if we say there is a space, because Tanya was saying space between the objects, it seems like there is something between the objects. But really, is there anything there? is a space. It's obviously there is no, but then it feels like there is an object here and the object here, and that's the way our instrument is being calibrated, because you get another animal that it has different calibration of the equipment there, and they see different wavelengths and they see different objects. So what's real? The interpretation of the perception is not the reality, although it feels real. That's the brilliance of it.
They say in the Gita, the sword can't cut it, the fire can't burn it, the wind can't dry it, the water can't drown it. Why? Because it contains all of those things. None of those things contain it. That's the same with the body and mind. You know, it contains the body, the brain. The brain of the body can't grasp or contain it. They've got all sorts of elaborate scientific identifications with it. Well, they never get out of it with the mind.
Maybe unless that mind is simply the question of who cares.
And yes, and Tanya did mention that, and it was beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, if the mind's saying who cares, that might be a helpful mind thing.
It is.
You know.
Yes.
And could it say that outside of space?
Nope.
We could. Bob says, could it say it outside of space? Because
No, it couldn't.
Wouldn't be audible for Tanya.
Nonetheless, that little piece of mind, you know, can be very helpful, isn't it? Yeah.
Peace of mind.
That peace of mind.
It's an oxymoron.
Which particular piece was it?
Which particular piece?
That piece that had the icing on it, or?
Oh, the peace that passeth all understanding, which is only when the mind is not. And we have the other topic that Michelle requested, to look at the brain as the brilliant survival mechanism, which brain creates time by being able to project into and conceive future in order to plan again for its own survival. The same with memories of the past in order to learn. It's an amazing survival machine that may sound materialistic, but it is still a pattern of intelligence energy. Beautifully said. Yeah.
Word machine.
Yeah. And is there Amarnath? Time itself is not there. How can unfold it? We are creating it, imagining it.
They say nothing can trouble you except in your own imagination.
Yeah. I would also say that brain, if we perceive it as a separate object, just kind of acknowledging and expanding that brain cannot exist without the heart, because it needs the oxygen pumped, the blood, all the communication device. I mean, it can't exist separately. So we could say that the brain kind of creates itself a body, but we know from the biology, which is also a story, that the heart has been created before the brain. And yeah, you could look at the brain as the central station, like a captain's bridge on the ship, which is kind of an analogy relevant to us.
And if it wasn't for that life essence,
Yes.
what could be? Everything is that life, that pure intelligence energy, the functioning. And to express it needs pattern, shapes and forms to express through. Call it brain, heart, lungs and all the rest of it. But it's life itself. Take the life out of that body, you've got a corpse. And the corpse, before it breaks down and rots, what can it do? Can't see, can't hear, can't taste, can't smell, can't think, can't do anything without that vibrating activity or intelligence energy going through it. It forms it's that life essence or intelligence energy that forms the patterns even. So it starts off from the no thing, just a seeming vibration, spontaneous, somewhat of a movement, expand, a throb, pulsation.
So instead of saying that brain gives itself impulses to move or act and gives itself, creates itself the body, you could say the life, the intelligence gives itself a pattern.
Yeah.
Intelligence gives itself the impulse, the throb, which then evolved to create some more sophisticated, complicated patterns. Ultimately, it being a heart and brain and genes and all the other things. That's the life. And I think that was final conclusion of what Michelle was saying anyway. Brain is just one of the mediums of expression. Did you want to add to it, Catherine?
Well, it's kind of fascinating, really, because
Wait, we gotta get this one.
you see it operating in nature, don't you? It's like perhaps the awareness and the intelligence obviously they're not separate, and you see it operating more naturally in nature, where animals just spontaneously respond to the environment and they adapt, and they don't have the large brain which has the capacity of language, of translation as much.
Yes.
So they're spontaneously acting, but with us we have that capacity of reasoning to a greater degree, and therefore it creates a lot of wonderful things, but then it's the problem. It can create the problems for us. And I suppose our conditioning is what we're up against, because our conditioning tells us that the word is real, that everything is real, but the animals don't have that. They have the conditioning, I suppose, in order to operate, but they don't have that self-reflective capacity with the added addition of language. And I think that's just the problem that we face, is really understanding how things work and seeing through the illusion of the mind and language. That's the challenge that I see.
Yes.
That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Wait.
And I think that's not as easy, I think, as it seems.
No.
Because we aren't individuals, we are all a product of our society and conditioning. So we're all in the same boat, really, and that is the challenge that we kind of have to see through.
I'm
in
not
this.
a product of my conditioning.
No, but we are believed that that's what we are.
Yeah.
We've been taught that. That's all I'm saying. But here we see that we're not, but that's just the challenge.
And what did you want to say, Bob?
Wait, darling.
Did you want to say something?
I want to say I disagree that animals don't have that reflective capacity and that they don't have language. I think they do, and you see, in a different way. But at the same time, it just really, I really want to say, I think there's such a strong picture that is held socially and there's a hierarchy with human beings having more capacities for intelligence or reflection or what have you, and that's just not true. That's I think a picture that doesn't serve us in terms of also seeing the non-duality, that we are not separate from, we're not superior to any of these other beings. They learn and adapt and they do things differently just the same as we do.
They just have it easier a little bit in a way because they don't have the...
We have no idea about that. That's just another story.
Yeah, that's what I was actually saying, that the animals have that incredible capacity. It's just that it's not a hierarchical thing. They have maybe more capacity than us, in ways. It's not a hierarchical thing. But I think it's just that we have the capacity of language that creates the problems, the issues in our life. That's all.
They don't have the language to tell the story.
I don't know that. I hear you, and I don't know, and I'm curious how you know that.
In my own life, I see that if I buy into I'm this or that, or I'm having a bad time, or and then the mind will go on and create a story, that creates the problem. that's the sort of narrow cocoon of identification, or that's the narrative that's created for the person, and that creates the sense of separation, which becomes problematic.
Bob wants to say something. Yeah.
What you were saying at the start, Catherine, in nature. What's nature in nature? It means naturally. How it's naturally and spontaneously happening.
But thinking is natural too for us, because we're an animal. Thinking is natural.
Yeah, it's all.
Thinking's
Which say it's all in nature, naturally. So. Intelligence, energy, activity of knowing. Not your intellects, but the life essence which the intellect also appears in, naturally. Intelligence is forming the stars, the planets, the trees, the people, everything is suffused with that innate intelligence, naturally. And intelligence is knowing. What's the knowing? An activity. What's an activity? Just a movement or a vibration of energy. Activity of knowing, intelligence, energy. Take that out of everything, and what do you got? So it's that one essence that's patterning, shaping, forming, expressing as everything. And you can only and ever be that. There is nothing other than that. And all the patterns, shapes and forms, we're breaking them down, just the same as we're breaking the body down into brain, sinews, nerves, everything else. Earth, planets, stars. Everything can be broken down, but it's still an activity, a movement of energy. And it's being, it's knowing, and it's loving to be. Right now. Isn't that so? Try and stop your beingness.
Gotta speak up a little bit.
Try and stop your knowing. Try and stop being. So it's naturally happening. But then when we start putting the labels and words on it, trying to describe the indescribable, doesn't happen.
But it was still an amazing description. I really like both
Yes.
of the aspects that you girls brought. One of the aspects of the narrative, which, as far as neuroscience go, we know that most of the animals don't have the hallucinating part of the brain, which creates the illusion of having a driver inside the car. They have another amazing capacities that we don't have. Bob has this beautiful part of the spiel in which he brings up the chameleon that can change color. We can get a little bit of a suntan, but hey, can't compare with the intelligence that creates the animal that can actually change color, that can change temperature, that can fly. The animals like bacteria that can create the toxoplasmosis, which will change the neural pathways in the brain of the mouse if it wants to procreate and it needs the cat for it. So the mouse will become attractive and will become actually seductive towards the cat, so the cat will kill it and get the toxoplasmosis bacteria in the system. What an incredible intelligence. But as far as we know, as far as the animals, they can change color, change temperature, they can fly, they can do all sorts of other things. They cannot hallucinate future and past in a way we can, which is good and bad. I mean, good on them. They don't have to wake up. They didn't fall for the dream of being separate. So they already kind of, one would say, superior. We are inferior because we imagining to have someone, the left part of the narrative network, the default mode network, which creates the hallucination of the time and a person that is in time and it's happening everything to that person, and that person has to wake up. But that's superior in one side and inferior in the other. It's like locally we can say that yes, this animal has brighter color than that one, but it doesn't mean it's better because it has brighter colors. because that intelligence is one. So it equally suffuses its brilliance in everything, in the bacteria, in the mug, in the breaking body, in the dump, in everything.
And in these human forms too.
Yeah.
They can elaborate it more than the insects and things can also elaborate
and
it.
imagine the world, and imagine itself in the world, and fall for the dream, and appreciate the awakening from it fully, because how can you appreciate awakening if you didn't fall asleep? So the animals, they have it for granted. We have the cats, they roaming around here.
Don't mention the cats.
They don't experience, as far as we can observe and as far as neuroscience can confirm, they don't experience sense of self-pity or unworthiness. They just respond to life. Yeah, they're lucky. Or like little babies, they don't experience this.
Did you know that the lima bean?
The what?
The lima bean. Okay, a lima bean, a bean. It's like some, I don't know. I've eaten them. You know, what do you call them here?
Lima beans. They're white.
Yeah, the
Lima? Oh, you say lima in Australia.
You say lima, we say lima.
You say potato. I say potato. Okay, the lima bean.
lima.
The lima bean, the lima bean, the lima, the whatever you want. Of course, it is not doing it itself, but it has this unique capacity that when there's a certain mite trying to eat it, it somehow can attract the thing that eats those mites. Now, I don't know what the mite is. It's the mite's defense mechanism is, okay? But I just found that when I heard that, I was just like, wow. You know, how brilliant that it just somehow can summon from whatever. It's not doing it, of course. You know what I mean? But
I think Mukti wanted to
Go
say
ahead.
something.
Sorry.
Well, I think in the same vein that we think that they're lucky because they don't have a brain that's giving them this separate identity.
Yeah.
At the same time, I don't think that's true because we're lucky we have a separate identity or our physical form would not survive. It's a part of the survival mechanism for these creatures because we don't have whatever features they have. We needed to have it, or divine intelligence wouldn't have created us this mechanism that sees itself as a separate self. So for me then there's a gratitude and appreciation for this thing, even though it drives me, crazy, and that even though it doesn't create it's not creating peace, it's trying to create survival of the form, which of course, for whatever crazy reason, we're all sitting here because that's not enough for us.
I have 2 children, and if they didn't begin to develop thoughts at about age 2.5,
Yeah,
I would have been very worried.
of course.
Separate thoughts of being separate.
Any kind of thought.
Any kind of thought, yeah.
Yeah.
And we have another question here from Michelle. Everything that the mind thinks is and communicates is a story. It can't be anything else. Very true. And now, Michelle, also, how is time not there? Your body ages, doesn't it? And there is one more. People resonate with different stories and form groups based on this resonance. But it doesn't mean any group's opinion are more right than the other. They are all just representing different facets or angles. You only have to look at your Facebook feed to see this. The variety of different opinions and interest. Diversity is fascinating. That's beautiful. And Bob, would you like to comment on the question that how there is no time if your body is aging?
Yeah.
Your body is the most aged body in this room, so you go first.
Well-
Although it doesn't look like it. No wrinkles.
Well, ageing is only a concept we put on.
Yeah.
If it's fresh and new every moment, different patterns, shapes and forms, how can you say it's ageing?
Mm-hmm. It's the memory that brings it, the capacity to remember the past, to creates the past.
Yeah, putting the time concept on it again.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you would have Alzheimer's disease or any other brain damage that would prevent you from comparing this body from the same body a year ago or so-called year ago, the aging wouldn't be impossible. That concept wouldn't be conceived of. It is the process of interpreting and comparing. So it's the mind stuff that actually creates the illusion of time. That's what we said. The mind is time, the time is mind.
What were you 9 months before conception?
That's right, yeah.
The psychoanalysis.
Mm-hmm. And everything changes.
Which vegetable were you? Which lump of meat were you?
And everything changes, and it is perceived as changing because of the time, because of the mind. Otherwise, it would be fresh and new.
So there's really no beginning, no ending, no time, no space.
Yeah. But the way the whole thing is arranged is so convincing and is so brilliant that a lot of people would never ever be drawn to question it, because how obvious is that what Michelle just said? Like, what do you mean there's no time? The body is aging. That's the proof. End of story. Close the book. Don't go there. But if you really want to look deeper, you have to look beyond the interpretation of the mind and beyond language, what Catherine was saying. You see, it's almost impossible because you use the mind to interpret the world. How can you even conceive of looking beyond that machinery through which you understand and interpret the world? It is impossible. Therefore it's certain, as Course in Miracles says it. Because it's impossible for the mind, it's totally certain and obvious for the heart, the core of the being. Because there is no thinking going on here. There is no questioning going on here. It's just plain existence as it dances without any story on it. And then having the story on top of it brings up even more beauty and appreciation. But then you don't believe it anymore, so you're free from it.
All these topics become a lot more fun, don't they?
Yes, come on, say it louder.
All the topics become a big game, because you're not trying to find an answer in the topic itself. The topic's just the topic, and there's so many infinite topics of the brain and the central nervous system and time and space, and you just don't worry, because it's every single movement in that game is the game.
Yes.
And everything is the mind, and then the mind just realises it can't find what it's been looking for in these aspects, but the aspects are fantastic, infinite colours and dimensions, but that's not you. That's like just part of the whole show, and then the show, and then the mind gives up looking for it in those aspects, and those aspects are magnificent. It's just a fantastic display, and I don't know what I'm going to say next. So just take
this. This is beautifully said.
I completely agree with nothing you just said.
I mean, even the concept of the body surviving or not surviving.
Yes. Of course.
That's like the ultimate. I mean, the birth and death.
Science, neuroscience, biology, absolutely. All of it is more attention to the mind, therefore more creation.
The game needs to have players.
And then you can see how the whole diversity comes into existence plainly by focusing the attention, which is the source of energy, into anything, into the music, and then you get the symphony, into the science, and you have the theory of origin, into the biology, and you get fantastic, fabulous medicines or drugs or whatever. It is all the same pattern of creation through focusing the attention and giving that energy, and then like fractals, like the Mandelbrots, they just flourishing, flowering everywhere. That's, the primordial throb or movement of life. That life given through your own eyes, and then suddenly you see more details. And then you build a microscope and even more details.
Whose eyes?
I recognize that.
Yes, good point. Whose eyes? Yeah. Go on, Julia.
I'm recognizing that this thought is just probably coming up from an intention or an interest in controlling, and at the same time, when life sometimes is presenting a lot of opportunities to go into the mind and try to fix it there, and I've been feeling
nature.
that, huh?
It's nature.
Yeah, but I'm feeling, I guess, that the more I listen to you and listen or just be and stop trying to work it out, the most helpful, I don't know if that makes any sense, but the most helpful thoughts, because I'm not coming from here so much. I don't know if that's making any sense, but it seems that, well, it's all perfect anyway, and nothing could be anything other than what is. And at the same time, it's just so, I don't know if I'm explaining myself well, but there's no time to have the same time, but simultaneously, how about that? It appears that to the degree that I am not attempting to fix it, okay, with the mind and reasoning and all that stuff, that just allowing the decisions to show up when they do and not when they don't, that the most helpful, just from looking past, even though there is no past, okay, so yeah, whatever.
That's also the wisest thing to do. As the nothing, what are you going to be doing? Nothing. Just see how the world resolves itself. The thoughts come, the actions come, the decisions come. The body is doing some, mind is fixing, that's its nature, so it's trying to improve, give you more pleasure. That's all doing without the doer, the functioning. I think we have a couple more comments, and whoopsie. That one. So, from Michelle, that means there is no cause and effect either.
That's right.
That's right, yeah. You can say infinite amount of causes producing any situation. So you can't say that is one cause. It may be even that the causes may have different weight, like they may seem to have. But yeah, that's how Bob and Nisargadatta, that's why they call them spontaneous, because it's uncaused. If you have everything, absolutely everything, including the butterfly in Tokyo, flipping the wings, contributing to your next thought, then yeah, it's uncaused. No cause. And another from Michelle, even though we still interact with the environment like there is one. Yeah, we are part of the environment. The body is not different to the environment. So we are doing nothing. We are empty space, but the bodies.
So who's interacting with the environment? There's only the environment.
Yes, we are the awareness, the consciousness, the knowingness of the interaction of the body and whatever is seemingly outside. But it's not really outside, because the body cannot be differentiated, cannot be isolated from the air, water, fire, space. Nothing is part of it. It's a dance. And you are the knowing in which that dance is being viewed.
Can I ask something? Can you speak about attraction and repelling a little bit? Can you speak a little bit about attraction and repelling?
That's just like the natural function, breathing in, breathing out. You naturally merge with what's going on. If you're hungry, what do? You'll find food, be attracted to food or to different people. And by the same, if you're not meant to be there, you'll repel what comes up. It's a natural functioning. All sorts of different things are taking place in the manifestation, you'll see. It's either drawing to itself or repelling it.
It's part of the natural functioning.
Well, yeah.
Without a story.
Yeah. You breathe out, and naturally, the knowing of need of air there, you'll naturally inspire again. Breathe in. And when you know that's getting a bit, the body recognises it's getting a bit stale, it expels it.
That's also a nice kind of binding topic, Jane, what you say, of what Michelle was finding out about the Facebook. You look at the Facebook feed and see what people are attracted to, see what resonates with them. There are different groups and everyone resonates with something else. And it is natural, although on top, of course, they will bring up the justifying story. Oh, you are against vaccinations, you are against humanity, you wanted this. And they will get very, very heated arguments to actually cover up the natural attraction towards one wavelength or resonance. Another ones will be trying to kill you because you are drinking milk or not eating meat or eating meat or whatever. You know how fascists people can be when they are completely falling prey to the ideology or thought, one or the other, better or worse, doesn't matter. Being Jehovah's Witness or wanting to save the planet, or doesn't matter. There will be always a positive justifying story that will telling me that I am good and I am right and you are wrong. But the natural attraction and repulsion is underneath that. It's just that, animals, what they do, they go to war with the other animals because they need the territory. That's our story. They do it because the life, the impulse moves them. But they don't go to war for the reasons that we can have in our narrative. But it's a really nice, potent topic to look at, the natural attraction, repulsion. Because no matter how enlightened he is for half of his life, I tell you, he still likes chocolate. There is a natural attraction towards it, and there is a natural repulsion from other foods or drinks. Or
Well, the flower will send out a scent or a smell, and the bee will be attracted because it knows where to continue its life, you know.
yes.
And at whatever the function going on in that flower might send out something and repel the insect or whatever it is that's going to damage it. So it's a natural.
It's all the intelligence.
Yeah. Just the same as the sun rolls around the earth. The earth rolls around the sun, it should say. And it'll obscure part of the earth away from the sun. It'll be dark. And then as it continues to roll around, it'll go back into the light again. So the pairs of opposites are just action and repulsion are going on all the time. And the division is the dualism that's going on again. We've separated ourselves from the oneness.
I have another nice really comment binding from Tanya. So it doesn't matter what thought appears. Thought is just part of the show. Thought appearing, not matter what, it doesn't mean there is a separate me. Yeah, whether the thought says there is a me or whether the thought says there is no me, who cares? The thought is only signifying that there is a presence of awareness, and whatever the content of the thought is. It's like, I think I've been given that example before about the glass, and then there is a little sticker on the glass saying there is a glass. It shows that there is a glass. But if you put the sticker, there is no glass, it will still show there is a glass.
And I love that analogy, that the me is
This one.
the me and you, the past and, the future and the past, the me and you, the future and the past, the superior, inferior, it's all the pairs of opposites, and the brain works in the pairs of opposites. It is always going to be me and the other person, place or thing, which is all illusory, but it's the mind's nature. It's a clunky, sometimes it's an efficient, machine, but it's a lot more efficient when it's not relating to a me all the time, because you're watching this clunky pairs of opposites happening all the time from this presence that you are. You've set back and you're seeing it. you're seeing how me is relative to a body, how it's relative to time, how it's the present and how it's the future and the past. It's you, me, it's superior, inferior, it's, whatever the pairs of opposites that come up. And sometimes there's absolutely nothing happening there. And then there'll be just a piece. And then all of a sudden something will come up, and it could be from 20 years ago. It could be from, it could be, you never know what your next thought is going to be. And it's amazing when you're sitting back and you're actually watching, and you're watching how it goes. It just goes and it goes and it goes and it just goes. Yeah. And sometimes it stops and you go, wow. That's what's happening here.
Beautiful. And you don't care whether it goes, you don't try to
No,
stop it.
well, there's no one to try.
Exactly.
There's no one to stop it. It's just the mind's nature to work in the pairs of opposites.
Beautiful.
And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's just peace.
Yeah,
That's what's happening here.
Yeah,
beautiful.
that's beautiful. That's what I was trying to say before, though. When the decision comes from here, or the thought comes, I don't know, it just shows up, and I'm not kind of debating forever and coming from this. Oh my God, if I don't do this or whatever.
I like what Paul Hedman says. There's always an action figure, but there's no body taking the action. There's no body mind taking the action. The action happens. And then there may be a narrative afterwards. Yeah.
In knowing that, recognising that there's no relationship at all.
No.
Say it again, Bob, and a little bit louder.
I'm saying no, that there's no relationship at all. Relationship relativity is dualism. And they point out it's only the one essence that's patterning, shaping, forming, appearing, expressing as everything.
I have another couple of comments. This is from another Julia. The law of attraction, great story, but they forgot to write the book about the law of repulsion.
That's because that's all caught up in everyone's head.
Yes.
How repulsed they are.
Attraction and right repulsion. You've got another book. The same thing.
Wow. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And we have another one from Amarnath. There is no matter, only energy, only awareness. Thought is pattern. Enjoy without enjoyer. And Michelle, I sense Bob isn't feeling 100% today. Please give him a causeless kiss and a hug from the universe who loves him very much. I'll tell you the secret. As soon as he takes his hearing aid off, he will be speaking up loud again. So he's feeling fine. His feel was good. But thank you for your worrying, caring, loving thought. It's just a super duper equipment.
Firing on all pistons myself.
There's a perception for it.
Tanya also said, well said, Jane, thank you.
Oh, okay.
And Amarnath, our feelings we impose on others. World is relative like a dream. What is absolute can't be thought or described. Silence is also eternal speech. That is a silence, that is eternal speech now for the end of the gathering.
So good to be back in this lounge room, that's all I can say.
Thank you.
Feel the love.
Yeah.
Feel the joy of being.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming, everyone.
It's a joy.
I'm very grateful for the community and for all of this, for all of everyone, and for you for making this.
Yeah.
There's nobody walked out yet, so there mustn't be much
No,
repulsion. Can't be much repulsion to that.
No repulsion. repulsion going on here.
Not today.
I really like that book title, The Law of Repulsion.
It is.
That sounds good.
It is.
Already written. I've got a lot of people I could interview about that. Oh dear.
Encyclopedia of repulsion.
And Julia says, extreme gratitude and still stories, Michelle says to Amarnath. Compassion never goes astray. And Michelle's also replying to, oh yeah, that's the compassion she had towards Bob. And Michael saying, I wish I was there too, and so grateful I could watch from home. Much love. And Tanya, so great to see you all there today. So much gratitude here as well. Very much attracted to this message, sharing, sending lots of love. Thank you. And I'm laughing in Perth. Thanks everyone, Julia says. Yes, thank you everyone for being here and being online. We are a beautiful, colorful bunch, aren't we? And as Julia says, a wonderful community. People who are really attracted to the message of the heart, not just the story in the head.
Thank God for that.
It's nothing more pretty than that. And love you all.
Can I finish this?
Please.
You
Yes.
know, I collected 3 minutes of poems from a poet named 13th century poet, Persian poet, Sufi mystic Balayani, which I'm going to read. Takes only 3 minutes, and we may finish this beautiful gathering. Praise belongs to God, before whose oneness there is no before, unless the before is He, and after whose singleness there is no after, unless the after is He. He is, and there is not with Him any before or after, above or below, closeness or distance, how or where or when, time or moment or duration, manifested existence or place. And He is now as He has always been. He is the one without oneness, and the single without singleness. He is not composed of name and named, for His name is Him, and His named is Him, and there is no name or named other than Him. He is the first without firstness, and the last without lastness. He is the apparent without appearance, and the hidden without hiddenness. Understand this, so as not to make the mistake of those who believe in incarnation. He is not in anything, and no thing is in Him, whether entering into Him or coming out of Him. It is in this way that you should know Him, and not through theoretical knowledge, reason, understanding, or conjecture, nor with the senses, the external eye, or interior sight, or perception. No one sees Him except Himself. No one knows Him except Himself, and no one reaches Him except Himself. He knows Himself through Himself, and He sees Himself by means of Himself. No one but He sees Him. His veil is His oneness, since nothing veils Him other than Him. His own being veils Him. His being is concealed by His oneness, and without any condition. No one other than He sees Him. No sent prophet, perfect saint, or angel brought close knows Him. His prophet is He, His messenger is He, His message is He, and His word is He. He sent Himself from Himself, through Himself, to Himself. And at the end, may God grant us success in what He loves and in what satisfies Him, in word and deed, knowledge and practice, light and guidance. He has power over everything and is able to respond to every request. There is no power or ability except in God, the sublime, the magnificent. Thank you. Thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's pure non-duality. And
Yeah, me too.
yeah, so thank you, everyone. Can say thank you.
Thank you. Love you all.
Love you all. I think we also have couple of more comments. Oopsie. No, it doesn't want to change. Okay, so it is Baliani, and words that cannot express how excellent and beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. That was, Baliani. Yourself as you imagined, nameless, formless, and quite a few more. World is a cosmic joke, Amarnath was saying, and Michelle, we do and say what we are moved to do. It is causeless. Emptiness, appearance, appearing is this. And Michelle doesn't resonate with he and him. And I get it also. It is absolutely no male, no female, no black nor white. I hear you, Michelle. It's just the limitation of the words. And thank you, messages. And yes, thank you.